The blessed, burdened by the greatest curse of all. Tell me, should you survive? What's up, guys? Okkotsu, and here we are to do a nice little breakdown / discussion on whether or not Yuta Okkotsu. There ain't no Yuta Okkotsu. I have to admit, I gotta put respect on his name. I'll make the Yuta apology video soon enough. Hopefully not too soon, though, because, like, if I have to make it too soon, like, he'll most likely have perished. But, like, I need to talk about Yuta Okkotsu and whether or not bro should actually make it to the end of this series. Should he make it to JJK Shippuden? Should we see this man move on into the next life? And not into the next life as in into the airport, but into the next life as in the life after Sukuna, after the merger, after victory. Should Yuta Okkotsu survive? Based on his role in the narrative so far, and what I assume his role is to be. We have a hefty chunk to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Yuta Okkotsu also tends to... Oh, that was actually a blind grab. Have it on him and keep it on him at all times. Can I put it back blindly? No, I can't. I'm not even going to risk it. Get in there. But Yuta Okkotsu. Now, obviously with, how do I put this now? With our track record, let's just call it what it is. With our track record of really cool characters getting real, yeah. So here's the thing about this. Ryomen Sukuna has clearly been doing numbers. Major numbers, insane numbers, legendary numbers to those who have been known as the strongest. In one way, shape, and or form. Of course, the most extensive battle we've gotten so far with Sukuna was Gojo versus Sukuna, a bout that lasted upwards of 13 chapters that ended up in Sukuna's, well, decisive victory. Like, bro's in half. Like, he ain't come back from that. But with that being the case, we do have this. And of course, we do have the waffle maker himself. Or he would... You see, I was simply born. I was born in the batter. Batman? You were... No, I don't even know how I would flip that quote into Kashimo slander. But, like... Bro got there into a waffle. It's simple as that. And as much as I love Yuta Okkotsu, in a way... With how his character's been going, he definitely fits into this motif. This motif of the strongest. This motif of, I can do this because I have the power. This motif of, I'm an extremely cool and powerful side character with a great ability. But my name's not Yuji Todori because I'm an extremely I'm an extremely cool side character with an amazing ability. Wouldn't it be a shame if I perished? But here's the thing. There are some fundamental differences between Yuta Okkotsu and characters like Kashime Hachimo and characters like Gojo Satoru. Number one prime difference that may act as Yuta's main saving grace here. He was a former main character. Unfortunately, as much as the Gojo Glazers, not me, I'm a Gojo Glazer, but like, I would never try to convince you of this. Gojo Satoru was never the main character of any story. Ever. Like, the only time you could argue he was the main character is the Gojo's past arc, which is actually called the Hidden Inventory arc. And if anything, I'd say that's more so, like, kind of, sort of. I'd say it's pretty equal, but it's kind of just as much Geto's story as it is Gojo's story. And thusly, Gojo was never the main character. So, of course, being a side character, you can sack him and, you know, not have any ramifications on the series. In a very similar vein, Kashimo Hajime, as much as I love the man, as fantastic as I think he is, even after his fate in 238, he's like the sidest of side characters. Like, bro didn't even last 100 chapters. Like, I'll give Gojo this. He shows up in chapter 2. I think, yeah, chapter 2. Like, he shows up there, and he's been there for a hot minute. And of course, he was put in a box. He's the main reason the story's built how it's built, in certain ways. Obviously, Kenjaku's the main reason the story's built as it's built, but, you know, semantics. But Kashimo, another very side of characters, if there was ever a side character. And of course, speaking of the man who had talent that's shown similarly to Satoru Gojo, yeah, we also have Higuruma, who also ultimately, ended up like that. But once again, what Higuruma, what Kashimo, and what the Kit Kat bar over here all have in common is the fact that they simply were never main characters. this was never their story, not fully. To Higuruma and Kashimo, to much lesser degrees than Gojo ever had. So of course they never stood a chance against Sukuna, right? Who just is him, I'll admit it. Seems like he may be the final villain. They're all bad. At least the final villain that has any sort of ties to like the rest of our casting crew. Tengen is Tengen, but like Tengen doesn't care about the rest of our casting crew. Tengen didn't care about its own star plasma vessel. So, like, Tengen doesn't even count, really, as a villain. If the merger ends up happening after Sukuna's defeated, I'll zone out. I'll be completely real. I'm more invested because Sukuna actually has ties to the rest of our casting crew and direct impacts on their lives, especially Itadori Yuji. So, of course, Gojo Satoru, no matter how much I huffed copium, was never gonna beat him. Of course, Kashimo Hajime was never gonna beat him. Of course, Higuruma Hiromi was never gonna beat him. And ultimately, I'll be completely real with you, I don't think that the man, the myth, the legend, and the beast and the demon, Yuta Okkotsu is gonna beat him either. But in terms of narrative weight, while it may have only been 4 chapters long, Yuta Okkotsu was in fact the main character of JJK0. We had a whole story revolving around him. And in terms of just weight, even though he does not appear in the proper manga until after the 100s, like legitimately, I think he appears, maybe like the 140s or like the 130s. Bro doesn't even exist in the back half of the manga. He gets light mentions here or there, but the character himself doesn't make a proper debut until then. At least at one point in time, he was a main character. He has more narrative weight, he has more narrative precedence than Gojo, than Kashimo, and especially Higuruma, well, I suppose I should say Higuruma and then especially Kashimo ever did. So, that's one big old reason why he should survive. Number 2, ultimately, he's kind of our last I'm gonna sound like Leia. I was about to sound like Leia Organa, but like low-key, he kind of is our last hope. Because as much as I love my girl Maki, this man gets domain backward cooked. As much as I love Akari Kinji, man gets domain backward cooked. And of course, same thing with Yuta Okkotsu, this man gets domain backward cooked. But there's genuine hope. As shown, while Sukuna's messing around, Yuta's able to do a little dancey dance with him. He's shown off. He's done his due diligence and has managed to make the belly mouth grunt. He's forced Sukuna to dodge. He's made Sukuna, admittedly, I still think this is playing around. I don't think Sukuna would actually be in danger of taking damage from this blade, but hey, let's just give Yuta all the credit. We're glazing Yuta right now. We're a Yuta yucker in this moment, an Okkotsu absorber, if you will. So he was so scared of Yuta's blade that he had to block it with miniature slashes and dismantles. He had to one-arm Rika because Rika unmanifested was still a threat to him. We literally see an unmanifested Rika at the end of 248 smack a palm down on his head, not to talk of fully manifested, and Yuta Okkotsu's popping domain and actually is forcing Sukuna to clap up and clap up because he's just that himothy. And that's because he's the second only to Satoru Gojo, not just in unusual abilities, but raw power as well. And thusly, he's him. And he's our last hope. Because I'm sorry, Mr. Punch and Kick isn't doing anything. And if that domain comes back, I don't even think Miss I Can Cut Your Soul is doing anything. So, the man who can lock Sukuna in a position where he's going to be burning RCT in order to maintain his shape and form. Locking Sukuna in a position where he's forced to hold still because he's worried about the ramifications of what this domain could hypothetically hold for him. A man who can force Ryomen Sukuna to wear down more and more and more those boundless cursed energy reserves with a domain that some people have counted, like, I think if you go total all the chapters, nearly 100 blades, 100 different curse techniques. All that is only applicable to Yuta Okkotsu. No one else has that. Yuji Tadori, we're not even sure if bro has a technique. I'm like 99.9999999% sure bro's got blood manipulation, but that's just me huffing copium for my boy. Bro may not even have a technique. This may just be soul book in action. Bro may have just like made his soul like clay and just morphed this all around. So it's entirely possible that Yuji Tadori doesn't have a technique, which means he doesn't have a domain, meaning he couldn't lock down Sukuna. Everything is contingent on Yuta Okkotsu right now. And of course, another reason why I gotta give Yuta his due credit here, and why I think he deserves a bit of a dub, it's because he's the next generation, right? Like, this is pretty clearly stated in his interactions with Kenjaku and what we see from there, but like, it's very specifically Yuta's role to slice off the head of the never-ending Ouroboros that is the ancient negative cycle of curse energy. That is his role. Who is the one who strikes down Kenjaku? It isn't Maki, someone who's freed from the system. It isn't Hakari, someone who benefits from the system and is also still somewhat entrapped by it and fears it to a certain degree. Heck, it isn't even Yuji Todori, the man who's supposed to be the eye of the storm of the system. It's the guy who's all about love and progress and evolution and moving forward and changing the system as it is. He's the one who puts a blade through Kenjaku's head. Just because he's that powerful, and because he has the perfect ability to, and because of what he represents. Yuta Okkotsu has that weight, has that girth to him. And ultimately, if you off him, what does that say about the system of things and Yuta's progression and how he counterbalances it? The boy who is surrounded by a world of hatred and negativity and disgust and pain. Sure, he was able to get rid of Kenjaku, but if he falls to Sukuna, all that's irrelevant. And speaking of Sukuna and Yuta and their dynamic specifically, remember what these two are always going on about. In one way or another, these two very consistently talk about one thing and one thing only. Authentic, mutual love. These two gentlemen parallel each other. And in a very similar vein to the question that was raised by Gojo versus Sukuna, who is correct on their moral and ideological level? Technically, despite Gojo passing away in 236, despite him happily moving on to the afterlife, reasonably speaking, as long as his students win, Gojo gets the ideological victory. The desire to make the next generation better, stronger, faster, able to surpass him, to evolve beyond him and do things without him. If they succeed against Sukuna, then he won. Because remember, Sukuna's whole dynamic and whole ideology, which is clearly explained in 248, is that he's him. He's him alone. He doesn't need people. There is no such thing as progression. He's all about the stagnation, the permanence of sorcery, even if he understands the natural impermanence of life. But with that being the case, unlike Gojo's narrative and his ideology, which can still in the long run have a victory over Sukuna because it's not entirely reliant on Gojo's very existence in order, well, he still exists, but Gojo's very life still being a present thing in order for him to be correct and in order for him to triumph over Sukuna in the ideological battle, he has his students which can follow him up for that. If Yuta loses and ultimately perishes to Sukuna, then once again, it kind of goes into the idea that Sukuna's just right. Sure, Yuji can still win after the fact, but Yuta would lose that ideological battle. And the physical one too, because he'd presumably be cut in half. But still, that's what's lost there. And don't get me wrong, Gege definitely is one who sends mixed messaging all the time. But I do think to some certain degree that with Yuta and his level of power and the level of impact he's had on the narrative and the fact he was the main character and the fact that the character is all about a different type of love, a love that stands in direct opposition to the kind of love that Sukuna consistently preaches about, I think it's only fair to say that whoever wins this fight and whoever survives afterwards, Gege in one way or another is trying to directly tell us whose love is right, whose love is correct, whose love is valid, and who should we take as the one to follow on an ideological level. Because at least in my opinion, I know this is solely a pencil thing, and I know some people don't like this, but I think whenever you write something, a story, or you draw a story, whenever you put something to film or paper or anything, you do always want to send a message. It's why I'm still confident, despite how bad things were looking. Admittedly, the loss of Big Jaku is a very, very massive dub for our casting crew. And considering Ryomen versus Akari hasn't been cut back to yet, I don't see Ryomen beating Akari. So, the tables are slowly turning. Of course? Curse energy? Nah. But in terms of, the merger getting transferred, that's not really a good thing. But outside of that, things are consolidating and looking good for our heroes, but things are looking awful. The reason, even in spite of that, I'm still confident that our cast and crew is going to win one way or another, is because I don't think Gege is, one, legally allowed to make a super depressing ending to a Shonen Jump story. I don't know. Do those things exist? I've yet to see one. But admittedly, I don't know all Shonen Jump. And two, I think that would just be too negative a moral. Oh, well, I guess Sukuna was right. The strong are the strong, and the strong get to rule over the weak. And now all the weak are gone. Yay. I just don't see Gege trying to push that narrative message through that. I see him trying to push, at best, a neutral message, which would lead to a different outcome that we'll talk about in a second, or most likely a more positive message, the message of connections and the message of bond, and what those bonds and the bonds of true love, actual love, as the domain says, authentic mutual love, what that really means, what that can really do, and how that stands in opposition to, direct opposition to, Sukuna's ideology when it comes to love, and his general indifference towards it, and the belief that other people aren't even necessary. I think that is another big reason why on a thematic level, on a parallel level, on an ideological level, we can't really have Sukuna win against Yuta and take his life. I just don't think it would work. I really don't. And another major reason why I feel like Yuta kind of just has to live is because, like, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, we don't really have other options after this man. We just don't. We really don't. He's kind of the facilitator for everything right now, so we do need him. And we specifically do need to see him use the full extent of his curse technique. Like, none of the... Like, to be fair, I don't think... Out of all the special grades, he's, like, the only one that has a hope of actually showing his full kit. Like, domain, maximum, general application of the technique, remixed, maybe inverse, reversal of the technique. Even Gojo Satoru, a character who had like a 13-chapter long fight, didn't get to show everything. Unless you think Hollow Purple is the maximum of the Limitless, which I personally don't think it is. We never got to see a Limitless maximum. So, there we go. We got domain. We didn't get to see a reverse curse technique reversal domain. We didn't get to see anything like that. But of course, that's a more fan-made concept than an actual concept. But at least for the full extrapolation on a kit, we haven't gotten that from a special grade sorcerer yet. Yuta's the last special grade sorcerer. He's the only one we can get that out of. So sure, it isn't just the fact that he's a facilitator. It's the fact that he still has more to show in his kit that I believe is why Yuta still needs to be alive. And of course, there's another big thing. You know, say they do beat Sukuna. Merger-kun is still a thing. Bengen, or Baby Tengen, like, that's still a thing. And don't get me wrong, maybe Itadori is just going to turn into Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and start mink, 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 and unfusing millions of people. But presumably they're just going to have to fight it if it does happen. And I think Yuta would be a very good asset in fighting it. So I think they do need his help. But of course, all this is me arguing that Yuta needs to survive, right? Like, he has to live because of all these separate individual reasons, which make it fantastic going on a thematic level, on a character level, on a power set level, on an extrapolation level, on everything, why Yuta needs to survive. But that's me talking about if I believe he should survive. Why do I think he shouldn't? What reason would I not want Yuta Okkotsu to survive? The answer may surprise you. It probably won't. I just want Itadori to be the only one left. like, I'll be completely real. It's kind of just my bias. Number one, I don't think Yuta's going to be built to beat Sukuna. I think he got his most massive dub ever. Like, ever, by taking out Kenny in the way that he did. I think that's his massive victory. That's his victory royale. I'm fine with him being a major contributor to Sukuna. I'm fine with him even being responsible for 99.9% of the damage. But I need Itadori Yuji to be the one to come out on top. And with Yuta there, it's kind of hard to do that. But luckily enough, Gege's already kind of built a failsafe into the narrative by having Yuji be the one who can tear Sukuna out of Megami. So, like, good stuff. We can take that. That's likable. That's good. But once again, I feel like Yuta surviving and Sukuna falling, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But of course, at the same time, Sukuna's already taken out so many people with him that I think we can spare Yuta. It's perfectly fine. We don't need all of Yuta. Like, it's not necessarily needed, but once again, I do really want Yuji alone. Mainly because not the oxymoron. Oxymoron is something a little bit different from what I think of. But the idea that Wasuke wanted Itadori Yuji to make sure that he did not fall alone, that he fell surrounded by people who cared about him, that ultimately he lived a fulfilling life. Yeah, I really do want that dynamic flipped, and I just want Itadori Yuji being the only one left. That's it. That's like the only reason that I would want Yuta to go. Because other than that, there's nothing. There's nothing. Like, once again, the main reason I would so in depth on all the different reasons why I think Yuta needs to live are just that. I think there's too much in his favor that has him going. Of course, I thought the same thing about Gojo. That's legitimate. I thought the same thing about Gojo. I thought there was too much stuff that we could have done with bro that made him a very viable candidate to survive. And, well, yeah. He hit the full wave and everything. So, like, clearly, your boy's opinion's been wrong before. But, fine. I covered why I think he should survive. I've covered the one reason, the one singular reason why I think he shouldn't. Because other than that, like, I guess, like, if I'm trying to come up with another hypothetical reason, I'm just going to keep it at that reason and keep it pushing. But I guess another hypothetical reason is, like, Sukuna should take him as a valid threat and thusly remove him like he removed Kashimo, just throw a dismantle wave at him. But as long as they stay in Yuta's domain, that's literally not possible. If Sukuna's assumption that the domain sure hit his Angel's technique, if we just go with that, then he should be fine. Like, that's it. Like, and once again, Sukuna's not really taking Yuta seriously, at least in my opinion. He's taking it more seriously than he did the rest of the casting crew. They have this little 1v1, and he is grabbing his attacks, dodging, bobbing, weaving. He's not actually letting himself get hit all too much. And he is reaching out to actively tag Yuta, but I don't think he's taking him too seriously. And as much as the statement in 248 seems to imply that he's going to suddenly go on a crazy rampage, he's going to stop holding back, clearly he's not. Like, if he really wanted to stop holding back, everyone would have been dismantled already. So I think Sukuna's in a playful enough mood that it doesn't really matter. But of course, all that's irrelevant. Like I said, I was wrong about this fella. I was right about this fella, though. I'll take full credit for being right about Kashimo, but I think everybody and their mama knew Kashimo was going to make it. I think even Kashimo fans, like, notably, I don't remember seeing much, like, hubbubaloo around Kashimo fans when Kashimo got in 238. I mean, people complain that his fight was too short, but ironically enough, that wasn't even really Kashimo fans. That was other people who had vague interest in Kashimo, not really Kashimo fans. But, of course, like I said, been wrong about Gojo, was right about Kashimo, but what about Yuta? What about Yuta in this grand scheme of things? Do I think that Gege will off him, regardless of whatever reason that he should stay alive, thematically or not? I'm like 80-20. 80 in that he will off Yuta. Mainly because I just see it adding to the tragedy. But that 20% that I'm really, really leading on, in the sense that I don't think he'll do it, is because he does have technically another warm body that is directly tied to Yuta that technically isn't Yuta. And that's Rika. That's the thing. If we're keeping Yuta around, I don't think he's leaving the battle unscathed. I don't think he's going to come out perfectly fine, prepared for whatever next step that comes in. I think he's losing Rika. That's the one cost thing. I'm 80% we're just losing Yuta, because Gege's cruel, and I wouldn't be shocked. Because once again, it goes back to the original motif of, hey, this guy's really, really strong. Not anymore. He's now on the ground. Hey, look, this guy's really, really strong. Not anymore. He's waffled. Hey, this guy has loads and loads and loads and loads and loads. It's all thick and goopy, and it's getting everywhere. Loads of potential. He's currently on the ground. So, like, Yuta fits into that category. No doubt about it. Yuta definitely fits under that criteria. But, gargantuan booty butt cheeks, I still feel like Yuta can be kept around, and we can sack Rika in return. Especially since ultimately Rika just hasn't done much so far. Like, outside of this really cool slam at the end of 248, like, she doesn't land a single hit on man. Like she's used as a smokescreen while it manifested, goes in for something, gets smacked, goes in with the vending machine, gets weaved and destroyed again, and takes more damage and more slashes. That's it. So, like, I feel like it's possible that Yuta ends up falling simply because Gege is a cruel, cruel, cruel individual. But at the same time, I think Yuta has more than enough valid reasons to stay alive. I feel like Yuta Okkotsu should not fall for all that he has done and all that he still has to do. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave Fallen. Like, you know what Sukuna was called in the rough translations of the TCB translations? Fallen. Leave that in the comment section down below. Other thing is what you're watching. Please, tell me your guys' thoughts. Do you think that Yuta has to die? Do you think he has to live? Do you think it's something in between where he loses Rika, but he himself stays alive? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Other thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Now, things like exclusive videos, early content, and and more. You also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dag with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Atkins Void. I'd like to give another big thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Gemlord, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Igneal, and Demix LND. Another scrumptious thank you to our $7 members, Autumn, Mornings, Lazo, and Sick Addiction. And I'd like to give another hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And I'd like to give a thank you, an amazing thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder. And another thank you to our next $25 patron, eHack1. And a final thank you to our final $25 patron, Stira.